Tonight, could the Trump visit stretch policing too far? The body, which represents officers, say it may take legal action against the force if officers are overworked.
Certain parameters that the service have to follow, and if they breach that, then the only option to the SPF to protect its members is to go to court.
Also making the headlines, a teenage hockey star becomes the second young Scot to die at the same hotel in Ibiza in a fortnight. The waiting continues for women at the centre of the mesh scandal, with many referred for specialist surgery still to be treated. And in sport, Russell Martin says Rangers' Champions League qualifier will show how far his team have come.
It's not going to be a season-defining game. It's not. So it's a really, really big game. But the season is a long season. We'll be defined by what we do between now and May.
I'm Kellyanne Woodland. This is the STV News at 6. Good evening. It's one of the largest policing operations in the force's history. But now the way that Police Scotland handles the visits of President Trump this week could be subject to legal action from its own officers. The Scottish Police Federation, which represents 98% of the country's officers, is seeking legal advice because it believes the operation breaches legally binding workplace arrangements, and the presidential visit will have a significant impact on officers. Well, it comes as the Police Service of Northern Ireland confirmed it had been asked to send officers to Scotland to provide support. Ollie Dickinson has more.
The ring of steel around Donald Trump's visit to Scotland will be a tight one. Thousands of officers are expected to take part in the operation to keep the US president safe. But the body that represents Scottish officers has concerns over if those plans breach workplace agreements.
We have an agreement reached for all officers in Scotland and the shifts they work and how they police Scotland, and there's certain parameters that the service have to follow, and if they don't follow them, then that's a breach of that agreement, which is legally binding, and if they breach that, then the only option to the SPF to protect its members is to go to court.
Police Scotland says it's working with the Federation to address their concerns. Meanwhile, it has requested additional support from forces across the country. The latest is the Police Service of Northern Ireland, who say they are considering an approach, balancing it with their own demands. Significant protests took place during the last presidential visit in 2018, with more expected this time around. Analysis of Scottish voters shows Donald Trump will find little support in Scotland.
People who support reform and have higher levels of support for reform, or people who really like Nigel Farage, tend to only put Donald Trump about midway on that like to dislike scale. So even amongst the people who you would think would be the most supportive of Donald Trump, reform supporters, people who like Nigel Farage, they tend to only put Donald Trump in about the middle of that scale.
The president will meet with both Sir Keir Starmer and John Swinney whilst here. The whisky industry is just one, hoping their business case can be pushed with the president.
The US is our biggest market, nearly £1 billion a year, and it's particularly important for our smaller members, who are often the first place they look to break into. So at the moment, we would estimate that the current situation on tariffs is costing us around £200 million a year as an industry.
Donald Trump is expected to arrive in Scotland on Friday. The president will visit his golf resorts in Ayrshire and Aberdeen before leaving next week. Ollie Dickinson, STV News.
Another Scot dies on holiday in Spain. Tributes have been paid to a 19-year-old ice hockey star from Dundee after he died in Ibiza in the early hours of this morning. Gary Kelly played for the Dundee Stars and the Aberdeen Lynx. Both clubs have paid tribute to him, saying they're devastated at the loss of their hugely talented young player. Gary was staying at the Ibiza Rocks Hotel. It comes just a fortnight after Evan Thompson from Aberdeen died after falling from a balcony at the same hotel. Well, our reporter Raheem Cham joins us from the newsroom now. Raheem, what more do we know?
Well, Kellyanne, as you say, this is the second tragic incident at the Ibiza Rocks Hotel in just 2 weeks. Now, the Foreign Office says they are supporting the family of a British national who has died in Spain and are in contact with the local authorities. The man's been named locally as 19-year-old Gary Kelly from Dundee. Circumstances surrounding Gary's death are still unclear, but by all accounts, Gary was a promising ice hockey player, having played ice hockey for Scotland at age group level and also professionally for the Dundee Stars and Aberdeen Lynx last season. Both teams have been paying tribute to him this afternoon, saying he was a hugely talented and charismatic individual, full of heart, passion and dedication, and that off the ice, he brought energy, kindness and infectious love of life.
And as we said, Raheem, this isn't the first death to happen at the hotel.
Kellyanne, this is the second incident to happen at the same resort in just 2 weeks. Ivan Thompson from Aberdeen was also at the Ibiza Rocks Hotel when he fell from a balcony and died. Today, the resort says it's paused its advertised events program while investigations continue. The hotel has a 2,500 capacity open-air venue as part of the complex and hosts annual pool parties and festivals with DJs from around the world. In a statement today, they say they are shocked and devastated by the recent incident. The Spanish authorities say for now Gary's death appears to have been an accident and investigations is underway.
All right, Raheem, with the latest from the newsroom, thank you. Mesh-injured women believe they're still being failed by the Scottish Government as new figures reveal that less than half of the women referred to the specialist service in Glasgow have had surgery. Nancy Honeyball from Dunoon travelled to the US to have her mesh removed last year, but says she's had no follow-up appointments or aftercare since returning to Scotland and was originally told she'd need to wait 92 weeks for further treatment. Here's our political reporter, Laura Alderman.
A lifetime of letters and years of debilitating pain from a mesh implant means Nancy now keeps a record of everything. Last year, the mum from Dunoon travelled to the US state of Missouri to finally have her mesh removed under the care of expert Dr. Veronicus. It's part of a scheme agreed with and paid for by the Scottish Government. But since returning home to Scotland, she says the aftercare has been non-existent.
I've had no checkups, no post-op, no telephone calls, nothing. It'll be 15 years in November that I've been plagued by this, and I wish I could turn the clock back. You trust the doctors. They said it's a gold standard operation, it'll take 20 minutes, you'll be in and out the same day, and it'll change your life forever. Oh, it certainly did. I was in and out the same day, but it changed my life for the worse, no for the better. Honeyball has currently been on the...
Nancy still needs corrective surgery, which she was referred for, but initially told the waiting time would be 92 weeks.
It's disgusting. I had a total meltdown. I actually had a panic attack, and it's affected my mental health, and I had to go to my GP recently, and he's referred me to a mental health team because it's too much.
Over 2 decades, more than 20,000 women in Scotland had transvaginal mesh implants to treat post-childbirth conditions like incontinence and prolapse. Its use was stopped in 2014 after hundreds of women were left with painful, life-changing side effects. Back in 2021, Humza Yousaf, who was Health Secretary at the time, announced contracts for mesh patients to undergo removal surgery from Dr. Veronicus in Missouri or Spire Healthcare in Bristol.
Unequivocally, I completely understand that there are a number of women who have lost trust in our NHS. I will work hard, I know the service will work hard too, to rebuild that trust.
Figures shared with STV News show 64 patients have now travelled to those independent providers, costing the Scottish Government around £2 million. In the 5 years since it's been established, 339 patients have been referred to the complex mesh surgical service in Glasgow. So far, 161 surgeries have been completed there.
So I think it's important to recognise that the Scottish Government has supported women to allow them to get their mesh removed. I do appreciate that some have not had the right support once that has happened. We expect local health boards to take on that responsibility and look after women.
Nancy now has an appointment for next month, but says she's lost all confidence in the system and fears more mesh-injured women are being re-traumatised as they wait for treatment. Laura Alderman, STV News, Dunoon.
The UK government has condemned what it calls the drip feeding of aid and the indiscriminate killing of civilians in Gaza in a joint statement with 25 other countries. It comes amid warnings of famine in Gaza, with more than 800 Palestinians killed in the past 2 months trying to collect food. Well, our Westminster correspondent Paris Gertsianis joins us now. And Keir Starmer has been speaking about the crisis in Gaza. What's he said?
Well, Kellyanne, the Prime Minister described the situation on the ground in Gaza as intolerable at a committee hearing earlier. And this joint statement really underlines the growing concern about the rising death toll among Palestinians simply trying to get hold of food. Remember that since the spring, a US-Israeli joint initiative has controlled aid in Gaza, something that the UN and other aid agencies have criticised. At that hearing, Keir Starmer was asked what concrete action the UK could take, other than strong words, to try and improve the situation and impact the actions of the Israeli government.
Let me be clear, the situation on the ground in Gaza is intolerable on so many levels, and we make that absolutely clear in all of our exchanges with Israel and with other countries. We are working hard with allies to ensure we bring about a ceasefire.
Now, one thing that some countries who have signed that joint statement have called for to bring about that ceasefire is recognition of a Palestinian state. The Prime Minister says the UK supports a two-state solution in principle, but there was no hint from him that recognition from the UK could be coming soon. Meanwhile, Israel has expanded its military operation into new areas of Gaza for the first time.
All right, Paris, thank you very much for that. A man has appeared at Dumbarton Sheriff Court charged with the attempted murder of a police officer in West Dumbartonshire. Police were called to reports of a man with a weapon outside a pub on Clydebank's Glasgow Road on Friday night. No injuries were reported. Police have vowed to bring to justice anyone involved in the exploitation of vulnerable young people through organised crime. It comes as a 22-year-old man, Gordon Shankland, has appeared at Glasgow Sheriff Court charged with human trafficking, drugs offences and sexual offences. He made no plea and was remanded in custody. Police say the arrest is part of a wider operation tackling the recruitment of young people to engage in retail crime. The daughter of a man who died just 2 weeks after a routine hip replacement says her family has been left devastated and is now demanding answers. Candice Coleman from Glasgow claims NHS staff were unprepared to treat his rare condition. It's believed her father suffered a fatal reaction to blood thinners just 2 weeks after his surgery. NHS Lanarkshire and the Procurator Fiscal are now investigating what happened as the family calls for better training and awareness. Caitlin Hutchison has more.
John Ian Young, known as Youngie to his friends, waited 5 years for a hip replacement. A long time for a man who'd always been so fit and full of life.
His arthritis had got extremely bad where his mobility was being affected, so the consultant had said that he was putting him on the emergency list, but again, that was still a 2-year wait.
So there must have been a huge amount of relief when he finally did get the surgery scheduled.
Definitely. Like, as soon as he got that letter, like, I've never seen someone light up so much in all their life because he thought he was getting his life back.
But just 2 weeks after the operation, John collapsed at home, was rushed to hospital, and not long after, the 59-year-old husband, father and grandfather was gone.
They don't know how he's not coming back, especially because my dad had obviously said to them, like, I'll be back taking you to the park and I'll be back playing footballs with you in no time. Now he's not even here. And as a family, we just feel as if we've been robbed. They was crying out in pain, like, constantly. I just didn't understand how he could be suffering so much. It was like having a heart attack over and over again because his nerves were shutting down, his organs were shutting down, and just basically he was dying, like a slow, painful death for 4 days.
Candice believes her dad was discharged too soon and that her concerns about his jaundiced skin were ignored. John was later diagnosed with a rare condition, heparin-induced thrombocytopenia and thrombosis, a dangerous reaction to blood thinners that caused his blood to clot aggressively rather than thin.
With any post-op, you have to take these blood thinners. And I'm like, well, why was this not checked? And he's like, because we don't actually come across it that often and we don't really understand it that well. So when he said that, I was like, well, to the nurse, have you heard of this before? No, I've never heard of it. I've been a nurse for 5 years in A&E and I've never heard of it.
An investigation into John's death, which has been reported to the Procurator Fiscal, is underway, but could take up to 3 years to complete. A significant adverse event review by the Health Board will look at what happened and what lessons can be learned. Candice says she's speaking out in the hope no other family will have to endure the same pain.
This thrombocytopenia, thrombosis, it might be rare, but once it does occur, the treatment plan that they have in place is non-existent.
Caitlin Hutchison, STV News, Blantyre.
All right, it's time for sport with Ronnie, and we're right back into football matters.
Summer holiday well and truly over now, especially for Rangers. They start their season tomorrow, and they start with a big one.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Good evening. On the eve of Rangers' huge Champions League qualifier against Panathinaikos, Russell Martin says the game will be a massive test to see how far his team have come in a short space of time. The new Ibrox boss insists tomorrow night, however, is not season-defining for his new-look squad, with captain James Tavernier saying fans should expect an exciting but different style of play.
Getting prepared for his first competitive Ibrox outing. A new season, a new head coach and a new vision for Russell Martin's squad. Tomorrow, the first acid test. Panathinaikos at Ibrox in the Champions League qualifiers.
Tomorrow is going to be a real big test for us to see how far along we are and see how much work we have to do. And I think that's the most interesting and exciting bit for us, the coaching staff, is that tomorrow we will learn a lot about the group and learn a lot about what we need to prioritise moving forward over the next few weeks.
With the riches of the Champions League on the line, the pressure is on for Martin's new-look squad to hit the ground running. But the head coach was keen to stress the success of this season won't hinge on a result tomorrow night.
It's not going to be a season-defining game. It's not. So it's a really, really big game. But the season is a long season. We'll be defined by what we do between now and May. So you can build it up to be that. It's a big game. Every game for Rangers is a big game. Every game is a must-win at Rangers. But it's not season-defining. The squad will look very different in 4 or 5 weeks. I'm convinced of that. But the team we have now, the squad we have now, we have to put in a performance that looks like us, feels like us, and one that we can build off and ultimately win the game.
For captain James Tavernier, 10 years now at Ibrox, he says fans should expect to see a style of play under Martin even he's never experienced in his time at Rangers.
I think you'll see the way we play, and with the ball and without the ball. I think that'll be evident when, as tomorrow unfolds and as the season unfolds, you'll see certainly a different style of play that I've probably not played since I've been here, yeah.
The draws for the next round of the European competitions were also made today. If Rangers progress past Panathinaikos in the Champions League, they'll face the winner of Victoria Plzen of the Czech Republic or Swiss side Servette. If Russell Martin's men are dumped out of the Champions League and into the Europa League, they'll face either a trip to Turkey to face Besiktas or Ukrainian side Shakhtar Donetsk. Elsewhere, Hibs have also found out their potential next round opponents. If they beat Midtjylland in the Europa League qualifiers, they'll face Norwegian side Fredrikstad. Should David Gray's side drop into the Conference League, they'll play either Alexandria from Ukraine or Serbian side Partizan Belgrade.
Former undisputed world champion Josh Taylor says he had to save him from himself after announcing his shock retirement from boxing on medical advice. The Tartan tornado had eye surgery last year, where he was told he may lose his sight if he continues to fight in the ring. And as Jamie Borthwick can now explain, the man from Preston Pans will go down as one of the greatest in British boxing history.
Thank you. He says he lived the dream and conquered Mount Everest. Josh Taylor called time on his boxing career this afternoon with a social media post where he told fans that a persistent eye injury meant that carrying on in the ring would be too dangerous.
Given he fought in May, I don't think anyone expected this decision today. But when it comes down to your health, you have to put that first. He has said many a time that even four years ago when he won the Undisputed World Champion, that he could retire a happy man then. He'd done everything that he could possibly do. So we've maybe got 4 years more than we maybe should have from Josh, given what he achieved.
Taylor burst onto the scene as he won gold at the 2014 Commonwealth Games in Glasgow. Within a year, he turned professional, winning his first pro bout against Archie Weah in Edinburgh. After working his way up, Taylor got his shot at a world title in 2019, defeating Ivan Baranchyk to claim the IBF crown. Just months later, he added another. The WBA belt was his after seeing off Regis Prograis in London. That led to a showdown in Las Vegas against Jose Ramirez to unify the titles. Taylor won by a unanimous decision, the first British man to reign undisputed in the four-belt era.
He's done so much for the sport here in Scotland and the UK, and as I said previously, I don't think he's ever got the recognition that he should have. So he's a great role model, and I hope that people will look up to him and try and say, right, well, like what Josh did, he was always striving to emulate Ken Buchanan. I hope the youngsters coming through now saying, well, I want to do what Josh Taylor did.
Over a decade in the ring, Taylor won it all, putting Scottish boxing back on the world stage and his name into the history books. Jamie Borthwick, STV Sport.
To golf, and after back-to-back top 10 major finishes, Robert McIntyre admits it's only a matter of time before he steps up and claims a major title for himself.
I know I've caught the game. I said it yesterday, I feel like it's a matter of time. If I just keep great performance, a good result, but it's another kind of reassurance that I'm in the right place.
STV Sport, sponsored by the C.R. Smith Summer Sale.
Last bit of transfer news from Celtic. Winger Luis Palma has joined Lech Poznan on loan until the end of the season. That's all your sport tonight, Kaylin. Big fan of Luis Palma. Good move from to Poland, isn't it?
Indeed. All right, Ronnie, thank you very much. Well, let's find out what the weather has in store. It's not been the greatest, has it? So here's Sean to tell us more.
Well, over the weekend, we've had those weather warnings around. And I know when you see these weather warnings and you think it's going to be a complete write-off of a day, some areas escape not too bad, but we've had some very heavy downpours, especially eastern parts of the country, because bulk of the rain has been coming in from the North Sea through the weekend, and those heavy showers as well. It's Fife where we've seen the real focus, the likes of Kirkcaldy, Glenrothes, Bonnybank just north of the Methil area on Saturday, seeing 41 millimetres of rain. That's a couple of weeks worth of rainfall in some spots, so very intense downpours in some areas through the weekend. And of course today we've had some thundery showers, especially in southern and eastern parts of the country, hopefully easing a bit through this evening, but still mixed through much of this week. Let's have a look at the forecast.
Midday Mayan temples, followed by sunny afternoons on the sand. TUI sponsors STV weather.
So after those heavy downpours in places at the weekend, a few thundery showers again around today. If you're looking for the weather we had in May and June to come back, the long, endless days of sunshine and pleasant weather, it's not going to happen for a wee while at least, because we've got the jet stream nearby, which means low pressure systems are nearby, and the weather will remain quite mixed and showery for the foreseeable, but still warm when the sunshine comes out. Now today we've seen quite a bit of rain coming into northwestern parts of the country, very wet parts of the Highlands, the risk of some localised flooding from that rain here. The rain extending a wee bit further south, not quite as heavy by the time it gets into Glasgow, Ayrshire and Lanarkshire a little bit later on tonight. And again, those temperatures staying on the higher side, 16 degrees. Where we've seen those thundery showers this afternoon, they should ease away through this evening. Now, tomorrow, we've got a lot of cloud. The leftovers of that weather front is going to stay damp, misty and murky across much of Argyll and Bute, northern parts of Stirlingshire, also across the Highlands. Further south and east, we may get a little bit of sunshine breaking through. Quite limited tomorrow, mind you, 20 degrees. So where it does come through, still feeling pleasant enough in the sunshine. But a lot of cloud for many of us during tomorrow. More sunshine around on Wednesday, but there'll be a good scattering of showers, especially central and eastern parts. But look at the temperatures on Thursday. I'm going for highs of maybe 23, maybe even 24 degrees Celsius by the time we get to lights of Stirling, up towards the likes of Dundee and Perth. Some very high temperatures, so feeling very warm in the sunshine on Thursday. Just the risk of a few showers around. Friday, for the Women's Scottish Open, that's when I expect we'll start to see more showers coming through. Also Saturday and Sunday coming in from the west and a wee bit fresher. Bye-bye.
TUI sponsors STV Weather.
Now, if you've had a picnic recently, you may have had a Scotch egg, but I bet you haven't had one this size. That's because it's been declared the world's largest, and the massive egg itself is an ostrich egg from a farm in Banff. Social media chefs Solly Patterson and Phoenix Ross cracked the attempt on their second go. It's tipped the scales at 7.8 kilograms. That's heavier than a bowling ball. Well, I need some appetite for that, I'd say. Well, that's all for the moment. We're back again tomorrow at 6. And of course, the late news is at 10:30. From all of us here, bye-bye.